we're very much still the children of the 13 colonies and very wary of centralized power. And there doesn't seem to be any power that's so potentially frightening as the money power. United States, the individual states contracted these terrible debts to support the troops in the Revolutionary War. Alexander Hamilton, of course, thought we should have a central bank, one of whose purposes should be to buy up these state debts and finance them by reissuing bonds or currency that would carry a national denomination, a national currency, and also to lend money to budding manufacturers to start spurring manufacturing industry and so on. This was anathema to Thomas Jefferson for all sorts of reasons. Jefferson didn't trust bankers. He didn't want our system to look anything like the English system. That was what we rebelled against. He didn't want industry either. He thought God's work was agriculture, like he did down in Monticello. He thought when you had industry, you had cities, you had crowding, you had all sorts of vices, he would have called it then. Hamilton convinced President Washington that this would be a virtue, that even a national debt in moderation would be a virtue. And we set up this Bank of the United States, the first, they didn't call it a central bank, but that's really what it was. The notes of the bank were accepted in disparate parts of the country, which was a new thing, because in the past, if you had a bank in Delaware, its notes might have been accepted in Philadelphia, but certainly not in Western Virginia or Ohio or someplace. Hamilton realized if you wanted to have more than some sort of rinky-dink banana republic type country, you needed a currency. And it basically succeeded. So before the Civil War, we no longer had notes of the Bank of the United States because we no longer had a Bank of the United States, but there were hundreds and hundreds of banks, and they all issued notes. And what would that be? You'd come in and give them either gold or maybe a treasury bond, and they'd give you a piece of paper that basically said this bank was going to redeem it. And if you could go across the street and buy something at a general store with it, or buy a railroad ticket with it. There were something like 1,600 different types of notes, and manuals circulated telling you how to tell which notes from which were counterfeit, because it stands to reason there are 1,500 types of notes. An artist could probably do a pretty good job of engraving one or two that nobody would recognize. It's tough to be an expert on 1,600 types of notes. And in general, the banks of New York, Boston, and Philadelphia were the most trusted. They were the most established. They had the most gold, and they were the most legit. There's an old saw that Americans didn't like banks because they relied on loans. And there may be something to that. As a farming country, we needed credit. There was just this inherent distrust